Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. So in this episode, I had a very interesting discussion with Sushant Misra. Sushant is an expert in e-commerce on various platforms, and he's been helping companies to achieve their objectives on e-commerce. Sushant is also a host of TrepTalks podcast. Trep is a short form of entrepreneur, and he's been interviewing entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders from e-commerce, retail, and tech industries to share their success stories and their achievements. Over the past few years, e-commerce has been a critical part of most business operations. During the COVID, a lot of business had to include e-commerce option for their client to survive, whether it's a hybrid mode where you have an e-commerce included part of the physical channel, or simply just switch all your distribution to e-commerce. In this discussion, Sushant talks about some of the challenges businesses had to deal with in order to include e-commerce option for their clients. He also talks about some of the upcoming big changes on these platforms and what you can do to prepare your business to take on these big changes. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you like this discussion, positive or negative, I'm always looking forward to your feedback. Don't forget to send me your feedback. Until next time, enjoy. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is Sushant Misra. Sushant, welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for your time today.
Hey Gurmeet, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Good stuff. So your expertise on e-commerce, this is the one other area I think a lot of, especially what COVID taught us, for the last few years, that everybody, most businesses had to build online stores. They had to sell, digitally instead of just, selling us in a store up front. It forced a lot of businesses to go into e-commerce. So where do you see some of the challenges? What do you see? What's going on with the e-commerce business at the moment?
So I think, I've been in e-commerce since I got out of university. So I've been in the e-commerce for, I would say, more than 10 years now. And I've seen a lot of growth in e-commerce. I think the reason why e-commerce has grown is really, it has given a lot of convenience to people who are doing the purchasing, right? So you don't have to go to the store. You can simply go to someone's website, add the product. And, now with the whole infrastructure, everything, in the e-commerce ecosystem, building out, everything from like the payment systems. So you can trust that, if you're paying someone, the money's not going down the drain or something, to logistics. My current role is with FedEx right now. I work on Canada's e-commerce strategy for FedEx. So, from a logistics perspective, you don't have to wait, 30 days to have your package delivered, right? It's really convenient now. You can have your, the expectation now is that you get your package within, 2 to 3 days. Of course, Amazon has kind of set that expectation for everybody.
There is a bar for everybody, right? So you order in the morning. If you have Prime, that it comes in the same day. It cannot be faster than that. You get your package the same day.
Well, now what's happening is more and more businesses are having, what we're seeing is that, people are having regional distribution centers. So big companies especially, they're having multiple distribution centers. They're even using their stores as a distribution center. So if you're living in Toronto, if you're living in a major metro region, you don't even have to wait 2 days. Like you'll see a lot of the times, businesses just deliver through local, courier companies, and you can get your package delivered either same day or next day. So, and that's what we are seeing now is more and more concentration regionally rather than, on a national or provincial level. So it's becoming easier and easier. Now, with COVID, when COVID came, of course, that made a huge difference. The expectation previously in the market was that e-commerce would grow gradually. I mean, of course, everybody saw that e-commerce is the way of the future. But with COVID, that kind of forced all the businesses to rethink, right? Because nobody could have their brick and mortar stores open.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a constraint there, and that really skyrocketed the growth of e-commerce. So there was a huge growth in e-commerce, but of course now, I think within the last year, since, the restrictions have been reduced, people are now, wanting to go back to stores, wear test out there, if they're buying clothes or shoes, they want to wear it before they buy. So there is a bit of a slowdown in e-commerce, but I don't think e-commerce is going away anytime. So I think it's still going to continue to grow. And I think what's going to happen now is more and more businesses are going to be selling internationally, right? So if a business was selling in Canada only, they will want to have customers from the US, customers from UK, Australia, Europe, Japan, other countries want to buy their product, because that's the only way that a business can grow. If they've kind of exhausted the domestic market, then so that's something that we're seeing. Of course, in terms of challenge, I mean, you asked about challenge. The challenge is that there's a lot more competition now, right? So e-commerce as a whole, as an industry, is more developed. It's more, which is a good thing. I mean, it's about convenience. Everybody's benefiting from it. But at the same time, for businesses, of course, there's more competition. So the expectation is that businesses have to deliver more, faster, cheaper. And that definitely puts pressure on the businesses. So I think that's the big competition, a big challenge. I think, all the businesses, whether they're small e-commerce businesses or, a business like FedEx or Shopify, that are really doing it on scale, there's so much more pressure to kind of deliver more with limited costs.
Yeah, definitely more competition simply means that more options for consumers, right? It's good for consumer end of the day, right? They get more options, they get better, faster products. So is Amazon still, when it comes to logistic and delivery system, anybody's gonna ever come close to what Amazon's, because they're also building a lot of local distribution centers as well, right? You look at every city in Ontario, you see the Amazon's big building coming up, the distribution centers coming up. And they are, they're the only player in this area, or there's a small competitor that trying to do what Amazon's doing?
Yeah, so just to say a caveat, I mean, anything that I'm saying here is not in the capacity of my work at FedEx. Okay. These are all my personal opinions. Okay, so I'm not representing the company in any way. What I'm seeing is Amazon is definitely, of course, they have a lot of money, right? So they can do a lot of testing. They can invest in growth. So I think Amazon is doing a lot of great things. I mean, I can talk about Amazon as a consumer myself. Like I'm a Prime member. I buy from Amazon a lot, and the user experience, like, is simply awesome, I would say. So I buy, if I have to make a purchase, I don't even think twice, right? I just buy it, and I know, because I know that if I don't like it, I can simply, return it, and somebody will come at my door and they'll pick it up. I don't even have to package it. So it's so much convenient that I think their long-term strategy, their overall strategy of building the customer loyalty just by, giving a great customer experience is really helping to drive growth. Now, because they have the money, of course, they are building those distribution centers, especially in markets, metro regional markets where there is more concentration, more volume, which makes sense. It helps them to drive costs down and also give better service. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing that, and I think we're seeing that more and more from more of the traditional carrier companies as well. We're also seeing new players coming up, more of what you would consider technology companies, right? So these are more of like platform kind of businesses where the business itself is an app, and they're hiring like third-party delivery companies or people to deliver, and they're mostly just managing, they're connecting the volume, the package volume, with these people who are kind of building their own businesses on this whole infrastructure. So I think a lot of people are benefiting in the process. There are new players which are really giving competition to the big guys, but at the same time, we are also seeing the bigger players really innovating, because they don't want to lose business as well.
And how about Shopify? I think they're one of the major players. I think they've been going through a lot of changes recently. They've been struggling with a lot of stuff. In post-COVID. how they're still only focused on a Canadian market, or they also expanding as well, Sushant?
Yeah, so Shopify is a Canadian company, but of course they have a big, international presence. US is the biggest e-commerce market, so they are there as well. And Shopify, uh, I do a podcast as well focused on e-commerce entrepreneurs and e-commerce businesses, and I can tell you, um, 95+% of most of these businesses use Shopify. And every time I talk about Shopify, they have to say great things about it because, Shopify kind of leveled the playing field, right? So I or you, as someone who does not, who's not an established business already, right? If I want to sell something or you want to sell something, um, basically the barrier to entry is there is really no barrier to entry, right? You can go to Shopify, pay minimum amount of money, monthly subscription, and you will get all the features that any big business would want to implement by spending, their enterprise e-commerce platform. So it has really leveled the playing field, really reduced the barrier to entry. You can start your business and be selling internationally in no time. So I think I hear great things about Shopify. I think they're still growing. I think it's natural that post COVID, the volume, the business has kind of stabilized now a little bit, because everybody kind of rushed towards e-commerce when COVID came, and of course now things are going back to normal. But I don't see Shopify going away anytime soon because they're still the big e-commerce platform out there.
Okay. So for opportunity for a lot of businesses, Sushant, is these companies have matured their logistic, they mature their e-commerce so much that there's not much. Now we're talking about so many options there. It's almost a seamless for consumer to order something. So where do you see in a couple of years that this e-commerce is going? Is the emphasis more on a simply build a brand, bring a volume to your website or to your app, and then simply let somebody else handle all the transaction seamless to you? So where you see the opportunities more for people to build a brand and bring the volume in, and then let these companies to handle everything from there?
Yeah, so I don't think when you talk about business in general, right? And and that includes e-commerce businesses. I think there are some fundamental principles that don't change, right? Of course, technology has made things simple, right? But from a business perspective, of course, you need to have a product, right? A product that is, that has some sort of a unique value proposition, that has some sort of distinctiveness, as opposed to what else is available in the market. Because if you're selling what's already in the market, of course, there will be a limit to how much you can grow that because you have competition and you're competing on price, right? So there's the product component of that. Of course, the more innovative your product, the more useful your product that the customer would find, the better your chances of growing. Then there's the secondary component of marketing and branding, right? So, of course, even if you have a product that is not very different from what is available in the market, if you can brand your business, right, on a certain component or certain facet of, it could be you're providing great customer service, or it could be that, you're doing the fastest shipping, or it could be that your brand is really premium and the whole experience is really premium.
You're solving some problem. You're solving either.
You're giving the customer something, whether it's really the benefit of the product or it's some sort of an experience where they're feeling really great about buying your product, right? And then you have the marketing. Of course, you could have a great product, but if you're not a great marketer, you're not doing a great marketing, you will have limited growth. And that goes the other way also. Like, you could have a mediocre product, but you're a great marketer. Then, of course, you can get a great, great distribution, a lot of business. So it's like any business have to manage all these different things. Now, technology and e-commerce ecosystem as a whole, it will, there's a lot of third parties that can easily help you manage, right, your your workflows. So yeah, there's technologies, there's like third-party logistics company where you can easily outsource, your operations. So you're basically focusing most of your time either on the product or marketing or really driving growth for the business. So yeah, there's a lot of things from a business perspective. Every business is different, strategy is different. So yeah, it's a game. It's a game.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk about your podcast, Prep Talk. What is that about? How did you get involved in a podcasting, and what is that about e-commerce or something else, Sushant?
Yeah, so it's primarily on e-commerce, and so I've been in e-commerce for, as I said, more than 10 years, and I had started my own e-commerce business selling yoga products and fitness lifestyle, kind of products. At a certain point, I closed that, and I was working for, some big companies managing their e-commerce business. And then COVID came, right? And everybody was sitting at home. And I was also sitting at home. I was twiddling my finger, what should I do? You can't really go talk to anybody. And so I thought, hey, somebody was talking, hey, start a podcast. So I thought, okay. Of course, I was a little bit scared in the beginning because, it's you have to, the expectation is you're producing a show. You have to entertain, you have to provide information, and there's so, but I started, I may not have been really great in the beginning, but I found that over time I've been doing it for a couple of years. I've
get better and better over the time,
improved. Yeah, for sure. The more you do something, the better, definitely you improve for sure.
But a lot of people don't realize how hard the work is. If you're looking for consistencies, you have to do it over time. It's quite a work that adds to your plate. It's a hard work end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have learned doing this and just listening to people who are more successful is like one of the secrets of becoming successful in anything is consistency, right? Which is very difficult. A lot of the people are excited about something in the beginning that like they can go 1 month, 2 months, but then like if they're not seeing results, or if they're not seeing what the initial excitement was, hey, I'll put out an episode and I'll get 1,000 views or whatever, that excitement goes away and the consistency goes away. So but what I have learned by talking to people and also just listening to more of the thought leaders who are more successful is that consistency is key. You have to play the long game, and of course you need to know what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve with something. So for me, it's a great way to meet other successful entrepreneurs, learn from them, and also share the stories with other people. So I enjoy it, and I've been inspired, and it has inspired me to start a project that I'm doing right now. So yeah, it's definitely it's been a great thing for sure.
So let's talk about the project. What is the project that you're working on?
Yeah, so I am working on a e-commerce product in the productivity category, productivity niche, and the reason that I chose that. So, I've been talking to a lot of these entrepreneurs, and over time you realize certain categories or certain criteria of what is a good business, or what would make a good e-commerce business. So I'll give you some of those criteria. Like if you want to do an e-commerce business, like for example, one thing that you want is you don't want to have a product that's 50 kilograms in weight, right? The other thing is, so that's a big thing. You want to have a product that has good product margins. You want a product where you're not, if you don't have a lot of capital, you don't want to spend, $50,000 upfront. So that kind of minimizes risk. So I've been playing with a lot of different ideas, and I eventually realized the one idea that I have makes more sense in terms of starting a business. So that kind of fit all these criteria, and which was in this productivity niche, which I'm very interested personally as well. So that was another criteria that fit really well. It's really about selling some, productivity related. So number one, I'm creating a productivity system, a course Over time, I have, I've been working on productivity and I've learned a lot of things. So I want to be able to share that. So that's a digital component of that. But the companion to that is like this productivity daily to-do notebook that goes along with that. That I want to bring to the world. I think it will be a value add to a lot of people who are ambitious, who want to manage their day and energy better. And yeah, if that works, then the goal would be to add more products in that store and grow that store slowly. So this business does not require a lot of capital upfront. There is a certain value proposition and differentiation because I'm bringing my own flair of productivity, which what I have learned, and based on the research that I've done, nobody else is sharing that, and I think it can really help a lot of people. So that's the plan right now, and I'm working to kind of bring this to market.
So this is an area that is important for every entrepreneur. There's only so much time you have in a day. We all try to get better on productivity. You want to achieve more because the same amount of time that everybody have, right? There's an author, Neil Evel. I read his recent book as well. I think he's very good at when he's trying to bring down. But I think it comes down to how to manage your time, how to manage your to-do task, how to manage all the activities that you go through. So your concept of working a digital notebook, the tools we get from Microsoft or Google, simply to-do list and the calendars, what's the shortfalls on those, and what's so unique about what you're working on?
Yeah, so that is a very good point. I think a lot of people kind of confuse the distinction between a productivity tool versus some of the fundamental productivity principles that can really help them to move faster towards the goals that they want to get to, right? So the whole idea behind becoming productive is that everybody has something that they want to achieve in their life, right? So someone would want in their life, they may have the goal to spend more time with their children, right? Other person, an entrepreneur, may have a goal of hitting a revenue goal, or someone, if you think about an extreme example like Elon Musk, he's really very mission driven, right? So for him, it's not necessarily about personal gain, it's about he's trying to achieve a mission. And so the people who don't have a very clear concept of what they want to do, they often confuse productivity with productivity tools. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like that's kind of the first step of becoming productive. So at least somebody is thinking that there's something that I can do so that I can maybe spend more time with my kids or something, right? Now, there are principles that one can implement that would not that go beyond just the productivity. They're like fundamentals that you can implement in your life. And then once you are clear on those fundamentals, of course, there's so many tools available out there. Everybody can create their own system around those fundamentals. So I think that's the most important thing, that the tool itself is not the system, right? So you can have a to-do app and you can write down your list of to-dos every day, but if you're not prioritizing that list, right, or if you're not making sure that you're doing your most creative work at the right time, when you have the best amount of mental, spiritual energy, have the best focus, it's you're not going to be very effective at it, right? So there are some fundamental principles that can help one become more productive, and so I think that's why I think it goes beyond just the tools.
Got it. So yeah, that is a separation. Definitely, tools is only gonna do what you tell it to do. But yeah, you mentioned the fundamental principle. Those are something I think it's a unique to a lot of people, right? So everybody have their own fundament. So what are some of that? If you can share one of those, or how do somebody develop those fundamentals that for productivity? Is it a discipline, or is it simply a mindset, or what do people have to do in order to be better at it?
Yeah, so I think there are a few things that one can do, I think, that can really help them to bring more focus towards what they're trying to achieve, right? At the end of the day, I think you have to begin with knowing what you're trying to achieve, right?
Okay.
So you need to have at least a clear picture of, 3 months down the road, 1 year down the road, 5 years down the road, what is it exactly that you want, right?
Yeah.
Because without having that clear picture, everything is going to be scattered. So I think that's kind of the fundamental.
Okay.
If you don't know where you're going, no matter what kind of productivity system
Yeah.
you're going to implement, it's not going to work. So that's the fundamental thing. Now, from there, I think one thing that I've learned from just by personal trial and error, and also by reading a lot of other people who have, thought about productivity and things like that, is a big component of productivity is not necessarily time management, right? Of course, you want to manage your time, but in order for you to be productive, I think a big component of that is energy management, right? And when I say energy management, it's your mental energy, your emotional energy, your spiritual energy, and ultimately what these energy, like what this allows you to do is bring focus, right, towards your goals or the things that you need to do to achieve your goals. So to give you an example, let's say you have a certain goal that you are trying to achieve 3 months down the road, or you have a long-term goal 1 year down the road, right? And you have kind of broken down 2 or 3 things that you have to, like milestones kind of a thing, right? And you're trying to achieve them. I know that, if there will be some things where it requires more of your creativity, more of your strategic planning and things like that. And if you are doing those things earlier in the morning when you first wake up, that's when you have your, energy is kind of like a battery, right? So in the morning, your battery is completely full, right? Your mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy is completely full, and you have the best focus. And then as the days goes by, that that battery starts draining, right? And the one interesting thing about this is that stress drains the battery much quicker. Okay, so in the morning, if you if you open your phone and then you see an email, let's say from a colleague or someone, and it gives you a bad news, that will completely drain your battery like really quickly, right? That's why it's important to manage your morning very, very carefully. So to put all these things together, if you know what your goal is and you know what you need to do to move closer to that goal, and that requires your some really creative or strategic work, for example, or maybe let's say you're trying to learn something new, in the morning, that's the best time to do that, because you're really focused on that, right? And then as you go in the during the day, you're basically scheduling things in the daytime, which require less of your mental work but are more execution based, right? And in the evening, you want to do things. So evening time is a little bit different, and I should say, I have a whole process of, I'm giving a very high level view. In my course that I'll be putting out, I'll go in a lot more detail on this. So
got it.
In the evening, basically your evening is to clear out your next morning, right?
Repetition stuff.
Yeah. So you want to be proactive in your daily management rather than reactive. And your evening is set to make that the case, right? So if you have to answer emails, you make sure you answer them in the evening and not leave that for the morning, because that's going to kill your focus in the morning. So I have a whole system, and the to-do planner that I'm creating, it's based towards this entire system of managing your day, and it makes it really, really simple. I think that's the other thing, is you could have a really great productivity system, but if it requires a lot of bells and whistles and things like this, you'll be confused in your productivity system. So it has to be simple. But yeah, I would say if one can manage their energy throughout the day and prioritize the work. With prioritization, I really mean really focus on the things that are going to help you achieve your goals. then I think you will see that you are making progress towards those goals over time.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. If you look at a lot of, we never talk about my day, right? So I'll mention that in a bit. It's funny if you look at a lot of successful people, they all start the day early, right? Very successful ones. If you see, they all start. I did not early on in a business, Sushant. I did not know about the managing energy part, how to do that. I was not as mature in a business when I started. I changed my schedule for different reasons. Based on my kids. My daughter was little. I wanted to spend time. So what I learned over the years is my schedule. My day starts 2:30 in the morning every day. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. So I wake up at 2:30 and I do some work. What I need to do, I work on the creativity work that I do in the morning. That is very I cannot do the work during the day. Business building a business is you require a lot of creativity. Sales require a lot of creativities. So all the work I do before 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, because once that the day starts, then you go into meetings and everything changes. But my day starts 2:30 every day, and at 4 o'clock, the gym's open, and I'm in a gym 4 to 5, and before and after I worked. But the work I complete from probably 30 or 3 o'clock to about 8 o'clock, I do more work in those hours than I would do rest of the day.
Yeah.
Especially creativity work, right? So I've been doing that for like 10, 11 years, but I didn't understand the energy what you just mentioned. Now I understand, but early on I did not know that that you need to focus on energies. I was just simply trying to make what works, and because my daughter was little, I just wanted to spend time with her end of the day. And I simply said, okay, for me to spend time with her, I'm just going to move my day to a little bit early in the morning, so I come home at 6, 7 o'clock, and I can spend a couple hours with her. But it does make a huge difference to your productivity, as you mentioned, in the morning. If you can spend that time early morning, whatever you spend time on, it's your energy is high, bogged down with a lot of emails and phone calls coming in, you can get a lot of work done.
Yeah, and you will realize, like, if sometimes you wake up in the morning and you see a bad news or like a bad email, it will change your energy. Like, you won't be able to focus, right? And that's really a lot of people kind of give this advice you see on social media, and there's like books written also, the 4 a.m. club, so a lot of people follow this, and I think the truth is not hidden, right? So everybody who kind of realizes that they have to do more in less time, they kind of realize that the morning time is when they're most focused, right? So automatically they kind of shift. So there's no like secret in the morning itself. It's like you wake up and you have it's almost like your brain has reset, and you have the focus to really do things. Now there's a hack for this also. Like, in the daytime, if you can take 20 minutes, 30 minutes to take a nap, right? Let's say
put some energy back.
3 a.m. Then you kind of recharge your battery a little bit, right? So it gives you a little bit more energy to kind of go through the rest of the day. So that's kind of a little bit of a hack there.
The challenge, what I find with that schedule, Sushant, is you gotta call your day early. Like at 8 o'clock, I'm usually done with everything, right? I'm ready to go to bed. So if you don't control your evenings, you cannot control your morning, what time you wake up. So it's a tricky part is you gotta control your evening part, what time you go down, right? So and especially when you have families together, and sometimes kids are, if you have a young kids, it's very hard to control that, especially in the summertime. But that's where the trick part is. If you can control your evenings, definitely morning becomes easier to manage. I think that's what I learned over the years is tricky is the more how do you manage your evenings.
Exactly. I mean, the worst thing that you can do is when you wake up in the morning, you're being reactive, meaning you wake up and you realize that you have to answer 10 emails. So rather than focusing on like the really high quality work that you will do, working on your business or thinking about your business strategy or thinking about, how you can change your sales process or something like that, which can really be beneficial to your, overall productivity and business, whatever your goals are. If your morning is just being reactive on answering emails, or there's a fire that has come up, now you have to put out that fire, it basically kills that productive time, and then you're simply being reactive, right? So and that does not help you move closer to, let's say your goal is to grow your business. That doesn't really help you to to do that. So I think it's really important that the nighttime, when your batteries are down, you're doing like low quality work, but you're making sure that you're cleaning up or you're clearing up your morning so that you have the time and focus to really do the high quality work.
So you don't recommend checking the email first thing in the morning. Like even when you clean up today in your inbox, overnight some of the emails gonna come through, right? So you don't recommend just go and take a look at the email, because I know a lot of people will say emails are reactive. So emails already there. So if you reactivate, so don't check your emails or messages in the morning, because that's gonna put you in a mindset that you're reacting to the world.
Yeah, you know what? I work in the corporate world, and I have found this to be the case. Like sometimes you check the email in the morning and you have an email there that maybe you don't not what you want to see, and that kind of completely ruins your morning. And could that have waited for another 2 or 3 hours? Of course. Yeah, you could have done your high quality work and then got to that email. But yeah, I think stress is, that's the big thing. Stress really kills your mental energy. So in the morning especially, I think it's really important that you kind of don't open yourself to stress. Even news sometimes can
news a big thing,
right?
All the selling is bad news. There's nothing good news in a news channel.
Exactly. So yeah, those are really morning is a really important time.
Very interesting. So how does somebody start? As you mentioned, they get their goals right first of all before they even work on a productivity. Fundamentals. They gotta get the goal right. So if somebody wants to start working and getting better on a productivity, where do they start? So simply just building goals, or there's another fundamental mental tool to start with?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the most important thing is not to seek perfection, because this is going to be an iterative process, right? Every single person is different. Every single person has their own daily schedule that may look very different. Somebody who's working in a corporate world may have a very different daily schedule, maybe a lot of meetings, versus someone who's an entrepreneur, their day may look very different. So I think the most important thing is not to kind of go for perfection. You're trying to make sure that everything is right before you start. Where I would start, I think the simple thing, if I can give 1 or 2 tips, the one thing that I would say is, one very important thing about productivity is, in terms of keeping your mind focused, is not to keep things in your mind, right? So any ideas or to-do list, or throughout the day, like maybe you're thinking about your business and you came up with an idea and you're still storing it in your brain, and I can't tell you, that's a huge thing. Like it's taking up energy, your mental energy, right? So when I talk about this whole energy thing, that is actually if you think about like a computer analogy, that's taking up memory in your RAM. So it's just like when your Chrome browser is open, right? So if somebody wants to start, and that's where you can use a tool. I use a tool called Notion, right? And I have like a page in there where it's like an idea dump. So whenever I have an idea or something, I'll simply open my phone, or it's available as an app on your computer. I'll simply just write it down, right? Or if I come across like an interesting website or something, I'll just copy it there, so that I have that. So and what that does is it keeps my brain empty, and that is like first step in really helping your brain become more focused, right? So you will have more bandwidth in whatever you're doing to bring your that much more focus to that task. So I think that's the first thing. Now, of course, once you have a clearer picture of your goal, and again, I would say don't worry about being perfect in anything. Just start the process and incrementally improve over time. Then for that goal, just break it down into what are some of the milestones, and for today, what is the one action step that you can take towards it, right? And it's important to define that action step rather than just writing like the topic name, right? So a lot of the time, the mistake that people make is they will say, whatever, they will write somebody's name, right? And that's they think that will remind them of what they need to do with that. But that's kind of a mistake. It's better to, you can write that name, but at the same time write the action that you're going to take for that thing on that day, and that will give you a more direction for that, right? And then it's really about prioritizing, right? So you need to really focus on what are those 2 or 3 things that you want to do in the morning, then 2 or 3 things that you want to do in the daytime when you're, it's like different energy things that you're doing. And of course, in the evening, you're kind of clearing up your next morning, the low level tasks that need to be done, so that your morning is clear, so that you can do the high quality work. So I think that's kind of a big picture. As I said, I go in more details in the course that I'm creating, and of course the journal that I'm preparing, that kind of helps you in a simple way to kind of schedule your day, to prepare your day, so that it really brings focus to your day and prioritizes things that really help you to bring closer to your goals.
Beautiful. One of the hack I use, I learned from I don't know who I learned from a long time ago, maybe Grant Cardone or somebody I learned from, maybe most probably him. If you take your meetings, we have a meeting after meeting, and start scheduling, instead of every meeting is by default in your tools half an hour or hour meetings. Instead of doing that, start scheduling 15-minute meetings. So you take 15 minutes. Any team meetings, any task you want to do, just put 15 minutes as a maximum. Configure your tools so that you don't take more than 15 minutes. So, because any decision you need to make, anybody you need to talk to, you can pretty much cover everything you need to do in 15 minutes. If it's going to go longer than that, it's not going to require your time. You can maybe delegate to somebody else. So I started using 50 minutes increment in my calendar instead of using half an hour. That saves me a lot of time in the meetings. I can squeeze in a lot of meetings, in a couple hours that I used to do that in a whole day. So if you ever, want to use that, I've been using this hack for quite a long time, and it saves me a lot of time. So, if I need to go out and meet clients or meet, any vendor in the morning until noon, and, I can go do that. And the rest of the afternoon, I can just jam pack, my calendar with probably 10, 15 meetings if I need to.
Meetings are the big one, right? It's like
it takes a lot of time.
It's the necessary evil, right? I mean, my thing is, and not everybody is able to do it, because meetings are kind of the bread and butter a lot of the times for entrepreneurs, and especially in the corporate world. But if you can, again, it comes down to prioritization, right? Probably it's the case that half of the meetings that you're taking every day probably are not really driving the big chunk of the results, right? It's kind of the 80-20 principle, right? It's like 10 or 20% of the things that you do actually help you in moving the needle. Everything else is kind of a waste. So again, everyone is different, so they have to decide it for themselves. But I think from my perspective, it's like the more you can eliminate meetings, the better, right? Of course, that's not always possible for everybody, right? You can't eliminate. So the example or the suggestion that you've done is shorten your meeting. That's a very, very good suggestion. It's like if you put a constraint, on making a decision that you're trying to do in that meeting, I think that definitely helps. That kind of removes the fluff, because a lot of the time meetings have a lot of fluff, because everybody feels like they have to give their input, they have to talk, and that's and most of the discussion just becomes fluff, and at the end of the meeting you don't have a decision. So that's definitely a really good suggestion to if you put constraints to everything, even not just the meetings. Let's say you're working on a task, it's always important to give yourself a constraint or a timeline, right, to do that, because you can do this. I think there's a law. I think it's called Murphy's law or something. It's like the task will take the amount of time that you allocated to it, or something like that. It's like if you have 2 hours to do something, a task will take the whole 2 hours. So you have to ensure that you give it 15 minutes, and you stick to that constraint, and it focuses you to kind of, to get the things done rather than wasting time on thinking about different things. And so yeah, very, very good, giving yourself constraint, very, very good time management strategy.
There's an app called Rescue Time. I'm not sure if you heard of that.
Yes.
Sometime my team will challenge, will say, listen, we don't have a time to do with this. We're running out of time, or there's no time. I usually challenge them sometime. Hey, why don't you install Rescue Time? Let's see what happens. So what that does is, it simply takes account of where you're spending time on a computer, on your phone, on an app, what app you're using, where you're spending. So it gives you a report end of the week where you spend the time on. You take that and you take a look at your calendar, where you schedule and where you spend time on. The difference will tell you what's stopping you to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
It's a very, very easy way of doing it. I used that early on when I was trying to structure my days a little better. But you take a look at what's scheduled on a calendar and where you spend the time on, it will clearly tell you where you're not achieving your goals.
Yeah, you know what? That's discipline, right? That's like it's easier said than done. And that's the reason, when I think it sounds more of a vague thing, right? That's the reason someone who is really driven by a mission, right? Someone like Elon Musk, it's like the clearer the goal somebody has and the clearer the motivation somebody has towards achieving that goal, right? The more mission oriented someone is, that the more disciplined that they can be. And that is something not everybody can do. I mean, that's the truth. Right? People can write down the goals, but not everybody can be mission oriented, right? And this is not for everybody also. A lot of people, their goal is to really to spend more time with the family, or have more relaxing time and things like that, and that's totally fine. But I'm talking more about like people who are really ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
The more ambitious somebody is, the more they're driven, they have a better sense of why and mission. And so then it becomes easy, because then they're not distracted by these kind of things. These things become a problem when you don't have a very clear why and your understanding of your mission. So I think that if somebody knows their mission, that kind of solves a lot of the problem. Then you don't have to think about a productivity system, because then you know where you're going and you're consistently moving towards that.
You look for those solutions because you're trying to tweak, you're trying to get better, you're trying to tweak all the time, right?
Exactly. So I don't think Elon Musk ever thinks about a productivity system.
No. I think that's the last thing he cares about, probably.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, very interesting discussion. Hey, I learned so much from our discussion, Sushant. It was great discussion. Business leaders who are watching, people who are, listening to us on a podcast, I would say reach out to you, connect with you, and have a discussion, and especially on your podcast as well, and connect with you and see where the discussion can take you.
For sure. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And what I'm doing right now is creating like this worksheet of, the daily to-do that anybody can use to really, define their day. And nice. I will give you, once I have that, I think it'll be in the next few days, I'll give you a link to that you can, Perfect. Provide. Anybody can go and download that. And then they can know about my website also. I'm setting up a website right now. It's called prodigy.co.
Okay.
So PRODYGY.co.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And that's where I'll be putting my course and my product and so forth. If anybody wants to learn more about productivity and how they can be more efficient, I'll have a lot of blog posts and content around this also. So yeah, they can go and check that out also.
So I'll get all that information from you. I will include a link to below this video as well. People can click a button and they can connect with you. Definitely business leaders, I know they're all trying to get better on our productivity. There's never a perfect way of doing it, but it's a work in a progress, right? We all try to find a better way of getting better, because there's only so many hours in a day. Everybody wants to get better at it. I definitely recommend check out your tools, check out your work there, and connect with you and see what how many different ways you can help us. So where can people find you? How can they connect with you, Sushant?
Yeah, I mean, people can go on, search if somebody wants to connect on LinkedIn, they can search my name, Sushant Misra, or they can go on the website that I've just mentioned, prodigy.co, PRODYGY.co. Or if they're interested in e-commerce, they want to listen to a lot of successful e-commerce entrepreneurs and maybe start their own side hustles, then they can go on my podcast. It's called TrepTalks.com, TREPTALKS.com.
Okay.
And and they can
and
find
I'll
me.
include all those links below the video as well. People can easily connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for time, Sushant. It was a pleasure.
Awesome, Gurmeet. Thank you so much for having me. Great discussion, and I wish you all the very best.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you.